Skoda is now well established in the upper part of the mid-sized SUV segment with its Kodiaq, a model usefully upgraded in this second generation form with a smarter look both inside and out and some more efficient engines. You can still have 7 seats and 4-wheel drive, and whatever spec is chosen, you still get class-leading passenger space and a range of distinctly Skoda Simply Clever features. It can tow up to 2.5 tons too, and has one of the largest boots in the class. In other words, you'd have to take this contender seriously.
Skoda has evolved its family-sized Kodiaq SUV. Here we're going to take a look at the second generation model. The Kodiaq was the car that started the Skoda SUV revolution back in 2016. Since then, the brand has sold over 3 million SUVs, expanding the range with the mid-sized Karoq and the even smaller Kamiq. And all the while, the Kodiaq sold steadily, with 865,000 sales in 8 years of production, 55,000 of them in the UK, helped by a mid-term update in 2021 and over 40 international awards. So how do you write a bestseller? This roomier, more sophisticated second generation model is Skoda's answer to that question. A car which customers can now specify in PHEV plug-in form for the first time. The latest MLB Evo platform and engineering here is borrowed from the company's Superb and the 9th generation Volkswagen Passat. But the finished product feels very much an evolution of its predecessor. To find out more, you're going to need the usual thorough car and driving road test. If you're approaching a drive in a car of this kind, hoping for a rewarding time at the wheel, you're obviously a very optimistic sort of person. Even in the modern era, big, spacious 7-seat SUVs have a reputation for handling with all the dynamic finesse of a Channel ferry, as do big Skodas. It's pleasantly surprising then to find that this second generation Kodiaq is actually quite an agile thing by class standards. It's relatively lightweight and rigid chassis, delivering decent body control through the turns. Even more noticeable is the way that the 4-link rear suspension setup provides a firmish quality of ride that's quite different from the floatier springing you'd get in the Czech brand's similarly priced Superb estate. Like the Superb, this Kodiaq now rides on an evolved MLB Evo platform, which allows for a wider range of electrified engine options. The mainstream powertrain options both develop 150 PS and make 62 miles an hour in just under 10 seconds en route to just under 130 miles an hour, but are quite different. There's a mild hybrid 1.5 E-Tech petrol unit, which has the VW Group's 48-volt mild hybrid tech, or if you're more old school, a 2-litre TDI diesel, which in volume 150 PS form has nearly 50% more pulling power, 360 newton meters of it, hence a 2,000 kilogram brake towing weight figure that's 200 kilograms more than the petrol model, but 200 kilograms less than the equivalent Superb. This diesel can also be had in the uprated 193 PS form we're trying here, in which guise it's mated to a 4-wheel drive system and offers a 2,400 kilo towing weight. Not yet launched at the time of our test, but expected to be added later, was a top VRS variant with a conventional 2-litre TSI turbo power plant. Probably the biggest news on the engine front is the availability for the first time on a Kodiaq of a PHEV drivetrain, the IV plug-in hybrid model in question, using a sizable 25.7 kilowatt-hour battery pack, which is supposed to be able to offer EV driving range of up to 60 miles. The engine that cuts in at the end of all that is broadly the same 1.5 litre TSI 4-cylinder unit as by the mild hybrid model, but with the PHEV, this 150 PS power plant's mated to 6 rather than 7-speed auto transmission and works in concert with an 118 PS electric motor, contributing to a total system output of 204 PS. Which doesn't sound a great deal to propel over 1.9 tons of Czech real estate. Still, you won't notice the disparity unless you find yourself driving it in the kind of manner a typical Kodiaq owner probably never would. And the drive stats are competitive enough, 62 miles an hour in 8.4 seconds en route to 130. Replicating those stats would involve selecting sport mode rather than hybrid or normal. With an ordinary Kodiaq, drive modes are part of a performance package that's optional with mid-level trim or standard with the top variants, and includes dynamic chassis control, adaptive damping, a setup which now uses two-valve technology to control suspension rebound and compression, replacing the old single-valve system. There's Eco, Comfort, Normal and Sport modes, plus an individual setting. This 4x4 model adds an off-road mode as well, and there's a centre monitor off-road section with a dynamic screen that shows steering angle and a displays section with altitude, compass and temperature readouts. If inspired by this, you plan to copy the adventurous families featured in Skoda's advertising and take to the rough stuff on weekend expeditions, you'd be wise to specify the optional rough road package, which adds an engine guard and an understone guard, both needed given the relatively low 187mm ride height. But if you're planning to regularly do the kind of driving in this Skoda that would require this package, then we'd suggest you've chosen the wrong car. For virtually all Kodiaq customers, the four-wheel drive system will be chosen for various conditions they might meet on-road rather than off it. Sure enough, on a slippery morning, you'll notice the extra stability it gives the car through the corners, as the clever software uses a multi-plate clutch to vary the amount of torque being sent to the rear axle. In fact, whatever drive layout you choose for your Kodiaq, you should find it to be an agreeable, family-orientated commuting tool. On the highway, refinement is impressive, and this Skoda's also happily free of the kind of sway and lean that crosswinds can cause at high speeds in some tall-sided cars. In town, the relatively light steering comes into its own, combining with the glassy bodywork to make manoeuvring easier than you'd expect it would be in a vehicle of this size. In other words, it's a thoroughly well-engineered product. You'd recognise this as a Kodiaq. The styling approach here is intentionally evolutionary. At the same time, though, head of design Oliver Stefani and his team wanted to move the look of this car on, incorporating the first elements of the brand's new so-called modern solid design language, further developed with the smaller Karoq EV and first previewed by the company's trend-setting Vision 7S concept car. You can see touches of that prototype here at the side with the squared off wheel arches, but there's no sporty swept back roof or backwards opening rear doors. This must always be a more conventionally orientated practical family SUV, which is why it's now a little bigger. The 4,758mm length represents a 61mm increase over the previous design. The lines are sleeker as well, the drag factor now rated at 0.28 CD, quite slippery for a boxy family crossover of this sort. Probably the most notable profile stylistic touch is this silver D-pillar insert. And there are big alloy rims too, varying from 18 to 20 inches in size. We've got 19-inch Haltai anthracite wheel rims here. At the front, the sculpted bonnet flows into an enormous grille, which can now feature a horizontal light strip with 14 elements forming a strip between the headlamps. We can't really see why you'd want that, except perhaps to allow your children to better recognise you in the school car park on late afternoon winter pickups. The two-tier LED headlight clusters can incorporate the usual matrix tech, and there's a wide, continuous lower air intake framed at either side by tall, narrow air curtain outlets. And at the rear, well, Skoda hasn't been able to resist the trend towards full-width light bars, this one extending on each side into sharply designed three-piece tail lamps offering a segmented C-shaped illuminating signature. It's not perhaps as boxy back here as a seven-seater really needs to be, but Skoda thought you'd all prefer to keep this raked back tailgate glass with its subtle upper roof spoiler. More important, of course, is what you cannot see. This second-generation model's evolved MLB Evo platform, shared with its superb showroom stablemate. and its closest rival, the similarly engineered Volkswagen Tayron. In short, what we've got here is a slick, sensible piece of design embellished by the odd practical flourish. Take our favourite Rolls-Royce style touch, the umbrella built into the front door, though unlike the old car, you can no longer also store it in the opposite door. Inside, it certainly seems a generation on from the original version, with a larger and much more prominent centre screen and the addition of these three configurable rotary smart dials on the lower part of the centre console. Plus, a previous owner would notice that the gear selector has now been moved to a steering wheel stalk. There's also a higher quality feel with smart stitched use of various sustainable materials. Though all the basic cabin tech's the same as in the Superb, Skoda hasn't just carried forward the Art Deco dashboard from that car, which is just as well as it wouldn't really suit the Kodiaq. Instead, this SUV has its own leather-like fascia panels, and this mid-level model's swan feather dash and door inserts are particularly nice. Be aware, though, that there's quite a step down in perceived quality with the base spec version's rather dark and dour loft spec interior trimming package. The days are long gone when you had to pay extra on a Skoda for a digital instrument screen. As you'd hope, this 10.25-inch virtual cockpit display has been improved for this second generation design and can of course show itself in a choice of formats, the key central info flanked by either dials or boxes. You can change the background to your chosen format, prioritising either drive assist features or nav mapping, and add trip data to the central part of the screen. If you want it, a head-up display is optional. Everything else you'll need can of course be found on this now much larger 13-inch central touchscreen, a new generation setup we've now tried on the Superb and a variety of Volkswagens, and which is a big improvement on what went before, not least because of the way that the added AI-based Chat GPT software now extends the functionality of the LoRa voice assistant. This monitor usually displays in this section format with widget boxes based around the features you use most often. Here we've got nav mapping flanked by radio, phone and voice system boxes. The other way of accessing screen features is by clicking on this top right car button, which reveals the more usual range of home screen icons. However you choose to view, along the bottom frame of the screen are shortcut options for apps, music, phone, navigation and climate. Plus, in the centre, you can access Skoda's Smart Link system, which connects you into the car's now wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity. Earlier, we mentioned these three smart dials. They're not actually that smart, especially when they interrupt what you're viewing through Apple CarPlay on the centre screen every time you adjust the climate or the heated seats. But the outer two dials control climate, but the centre one can also be configured to deal with things like fan speed, audio volume and drive modes. Not all the cabin fittings have the kind of quality that the asking price of this model might now lead you to expect, like the outer bezels of these dials, the silver rotary controllers on the steering wheel, or the new gear shift controller which sits where the wiper stalk previously did, leaving the left stalk somewhat overburdened with up to 14 different functions depending on how you push, pull or click it. On the plus side, the seats are really excellent and come as standard with heating and four-way lumbar support, though not the massaging system you now get on all Superbs. You'd expect plenty of Skoda's so-called Simply Clever cabin storage, and by and large there's lots of it. Take for instance this neat sliding panel in the lower centre console which enables this middle storage area between the seats to be either a storage box or a second cup holder. Plus the big flock-line door bins have clip-on rubbish receptacles, though they're so small that they're going to fill up after a couple of sweet wrappers. The forward lidded compartment at the base of the centre stack is on 2 levels with access to the usual USB-C ports and a wireless charging mat that now charges quicker and cools your handset while it's doing so. The deep box between the seats is topped by a lovely ratcheting armrest, and you get a big glove box, coin slots, sun visor clips and the Czech maker's usual ticket clip on the A-pillar in the corner of the windscreen. Okay, enough on what it's like at the front of this Kodiaq. Let's check out the rear, accessed through these wide opening doors. This second row bench features all the versatility you'd want from this kind of 7-seat SUV, with a split base that slides back and forth and a backrest that reclines for greater comfort on longer journeys. Even with it fully back, there's nothing like the legroom you'd find in a comparably priced Skoda Superb estate, but a couple of lanky occupants will still probably be more than satisfied. Should you need to take a third rear passenger, you'll need to remove this useful but rather cheap-feeling central storage panel that sits on top of the transmission tunnel, though we're not quite sure where you'd then put it. This compartment comes as part of the optional Simply Clever family package, which also gives you side window blinds and these media holder seat back brackets, which is unfortunately rather easy to painfully catch your head on as you get in and out. Overall, a trio of grown-up folk could just about be accommodated without too many spatial compromises, helped by plenty of headroom, even with the optional panoramic sunroof fitted. Standard 3-zone climate control means you get these climate buttons, plus there are 2 USB-C ports and a 12-volt socket, and rear seat heating too, if you've added the optional winter pack. There are seat back pockets, B-pillar coat hooks, overhead lights and ISOFIX child seat fastenings for the outer 2 seats. But the cup holders in the fold-down armrest are small and the door bins lack the flock lining of those in the front, so small items will rattle about in them. So what's it like in the third row? Well, that's assuming, of course, that you want space for up to 6 or 7 folk. Conventionally engined 5-seat only Kodiaq models are available at the bottom of the range if you don't. And with the IV PHEV drivetrain, you have to have the 5-seat format. But most Kodiaq customers want seats in the boot area. Gaining access to them at the very rear of the car requires you to pull up these latches on the second row seat shoulders. This ought to be a one-handed push and pull forward operation, but unfortunately so stiff are the latches that 2 hands will often be needed to get the job done. Once the seats move forward, there's just enough of a gap for kids or moderately athletic adults to jump into the very back. Back here, you're quickly reminded that this is an SUV, not an MPV, though Skoda reckons that improvements in headroom back here will make life more bearable at the very back for adults confined here on short journeys. Legroom, though, remains pretty restricted unless ahead of you you've got extremely accommodating middle row passengers who've slid their seats right forward. Plus the headrest will dig into your shoulders until you raise them, and the high floor means your knees are raised uncomfortably up towards your chest. But all this is pretty much par for the course with cars in this segment. You might hope at least for cup holders back here. Alas not. There's just a trinket tray on either side, but the rear side windows are at least large enough to make it feel not too claustrophobic. Let's finish by heading back to the tailgate, pausing on the way to notice another of Skoda's trumpeted so-called Simply Clever touches, this ice scraper built into the fuel filler cap. If we had time, we'd also show you the cap on the screen wash reservoir under the bonnet, which opens up into a funnel to reduce the amount of wasteful splashing. Skoda apparently cares about things like that. At the back, the hatch only operates electrically if you avoid base trim, but when it does so, it can operate via foot gesture control if you need it to. With the tailgate raised, a huge aperture is revealed, complete with a usefully low loading sill. Even better news if you've gone for a 7-seat variant like this one and have all 3 rows upright, is that there's still space behind the rearmost seat backs for more than a couple of plastic shopping bags. 340 litres of capacity to be exact. 70 litres more than the previous generation model could offer. Underneath this cargo-based luggage board, there's space to stow the tonneau cover above a well beneath, where you can put the sadly optional space saver spare wheel. Lights illuminate the area on both sides, and thoughtfully there are 2 more in the inner tailgate to aid nighttime loading. There are 4 solid bag hooks and a 12-volt socket on the left, with a switch for the retracting tow bar if you fitted it on the right. Most of the time, owners of 7-seat Kodiaq models are probably going to be using their cars with these rearmost seats folded into the floor, an action easy and simple to complete. In which case, there's up to 845 litres of space on offer with the middle row pushed right forward, 80 litres more than before. That figure rises to 910 litres with the 5-seat model. If you need to accommodate longer items, the 40-20-40 split folding functionality of the second row seat backs will be welcome, allowing you to push through longer items like skis without disturbing a couple of rear-seated passengers. Plus, the cargo sidewall catches that Skoda rather meanly made you pay extra for on the previous generation model are now standard and solid feeling in their action. With the second row seat backs folded, there's up to 2,035 litres of space available in this 7-seat model. That's 30 litres more than before. It's 2,105 litres in the 5-seat model. So yes, it's all very practical. From launch and at the time of our test in autumn 2024, prices for this second generation Kodiaq started from around £37,000, but in reality, not many Kodiaqs leave the showroom for much less than £40,000. For the kind of model you'd ideally like, budget in the £40,000 to £45,000 bracket, with more still for the ritziest trim. Most customers still choose the 2-litre TDI diesel engine, but it's worth noting that this commands a significant £2,300 premium over the equivalent 1.5 TSI E-Tech mild hybrid petrol version. DSG auto transmission is of course standard across the range. Let's give you some more detail on the lineup. The core range is based around 3 trim levels: base SE, this mid-range SEL, spec and smart sport line. With base SE trim, it's possible to save £860 with the mainstream 1.5 TSI E-Tech petrol or 2-litre TDI diesel versions by deleting the third seating row. With the 2 plusher trim levels, though, the only way you can have a 5-seat Kodiaq is by specifying the PHEV drivetrain, which can't be had with the third seating row because of its underfloor battery pack. That 1.5 TSI IV PHEV model, by the way, starts at about £42,000 in its cheapest form. Think around £3,000 more than the equivalent conventional diesel version. Could be worth thinking about if you reckon you'll make that back in benefit-in-kind tax savings over a 3 or 4 year ownership span. You might be wondering about 4-wheel drive, and we've got that here. There's only one 4x4 drivetrain available, and to get it you have to avoid the base spec and 5-seat versions. It's the uprated 193 PS version of the 2-litre TDI diesel we're trying today, a good all-round package. But you might want to think carefully about choosing it, because such a 4x4 diesel Kodiaq requires a hefty £3,720 premium over the conventional 2-litre TDI 150 PS front-driven variant. That's a lot just for the odd snowy snap or for the off-piste adventures you'll probably never take. Not yet launched at the time of our test, but expected to be later added, was a top VRS variant with a conventional 2-litre TSI turbo power plant. In terms of rivals, the most obvious one is the Volkswagen Group model, which is this car's closest rival and shares most of the same engineering. The Tayron, which costs fractionally more. As we filmed, it was also still possible to buy another VW Group engineered model in this segment, the Seat Tarraco, but that sits on a much older platform, which is why that Seat offers a useful saving over this Skoda, over £3,500 if, say, you were looking at a base spec diesel 7-seat Kodiaq model. The 2 key rivals from outside the VW Group are the Peugeot 5008, which will cost you fractionally more than a Kodiaq, and the Nissan X-Trail, which will cost you fractionally less. If you're looking at a pricier Kodiaq, you might also want to consider the Land Rover Discovery Sport and the Kia Sorento, both of which are priced from around £42,000 to £43,000 as we filmed. That's Kia's similarly engineered Korean stablemate is Hyundai's Santa Fe, priced from around £48,000 at the time of this review, which is nearly as much as you pay for another potential segment rival, the Toyota Highlander, a self-charging full hybrid. If, having considered all of that, you conclude that it is a Kodiaq that you really want, then you'll need to know just how generous Skoda's been with standard specs, so let's take a look at that now. Starting with base SE spec, which includes most of what you want. That means 18-inch silver alloy wheels in a Mazzino design, LED headlamps, front fog lights, LED tail lights, all-round parking sensors, power folding mirrors, and black roof rails. Inside, with base SE spec, there's heated front seats, a 10.25-inch virtual cockpit instrument display, a rear-view camera and a wireless charging mat, ambient lighting and the neat configurable smart dials with their coloured displays. Media text taken care of by a 13-inch central touchscreen with navigation and voice control, plus Skoda's Smart Link system, giving wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. There are all the usual benefits of the Skoda Connect ownership app as well, and you probably won't be expecting tri-zone climate control and an umbrella in the door at base trim level, but Skoda includes them here, though irritatingly can't offer a space-saver spare wheel on most 7-seat variants. Our only other comment here would be that the standard loft interior package is a bit grey and dour. There's a much better lounge trimming package that lifts the cabin quite a lot, but it does cost nearly £1,900 more. If you're going to spend that, you might as well upgrade yourself to the mid-level SEL trim spec that, as we've told you earlier, we've chosen to try here. With this, you don't have to worry about upgrading the trim package, because it comes as standard with a much nicer EcoSuite black design selection interior furnished in a combination of real and artificial leather. If you prefer a lighter coloured interior, Skoda offers its Sweet Cognac design selection interior trimming package as a no-cost option at this level. Other standard SEL features include larger 19-inch Rapito silver alloy wheels, intelligent matrix LED headlamps, animated LED tail lamps, keyless entry, rear privacy glass and a power-operated tailgate. Inside with SEL spec, there's 14-way powered adjustment and memory settings for the front seats, plus silver roof rails and a variable height boot floor. If you want a rather more purposeful-looking Kodiaq, then you'll want one of the more dynamic-looking Sportline versions. These come with 20-inch rear anthracite alloy wheels, metallic paint and a sport styling pack, along with Skoda's Lane Keeping System Plus semi-automatic vehicle control system, which includes traffic jam assist to effectively drive the car for you in stop-start urban driving. Inside with Sportline trim, there's a bespoke Sportline design selection interior trimming package featuring micro suede interior trimming, sports comfort seats, a sports steering wheel and aluminium pedals, plus acoustic side and rear windows and adaptive cruise control. Proactive drive stuff includes dynamic chassis control, adaptive damping and dynamic steering, two features you can specify as part of an optional performance pack with this mid-level SEL trim level. We've actually got that here. Talking of options, let's consider what else you can spend your cash on. Your Skoda dealer will probably want to sell you one of the Convenience Plus packages, which, amongst other things, gets you the upgraded 12-speaker Canton sound system, a variable height boot floor, and with conventionally engined models, a space-saver spare wheel. You can have that package with massaging front seats as well. Here we've got the Simply Clever family package, which gets you rear side window blinds, media holder brackets, a storage compartment and extra airbags, side bags at the rear and an interaction airbag at the front. With the two mainstream trims, you'll also probably want the winter pack, which gets you heat for the front and rear seats and steering wheel. We've got that here as well. Along with the optional Light and View Plus package, which gets you a horizontal light strip for the front grille. We've also got that here, along with the optional 19-inch Haltai anthracite wheel trims. You might also want to look at a heated windscreen, a head-up display and a panoramic sunroof. And we'd want the Simply Clever cargo package, which gives you a luggage net, storage compartments in the boot and a reversible cargo area mat. With the two more affordable trim levels, you can also add a rough road package, including a front underbody guard and an underbody stone guard. As you'd expect on an SUV, running boards, a tow bar and horizontal roof rails for roof boxes and sports carriers can all be added. Before you spend big on all this stuff, remember that with SE and SEL trim, unless you choose the only standard paint colour, solid energy blue, you'll have to pay Skoda £680 extra for one of the available special or metallic shades available. We've got metallic Bronx Gold here. On to safety, an area where Skoda continues to keep this model well up to the highest class standard. Now, from launch, this second generation Kodiaq was rated by Euro NCAP as one of the very safest cars it has tested in 2024. This model achieved 84% of the available NCAP test points, scoring 89% for adult occupant protection, 83% for child occupant protection, 82% for vulnerable road user protection, and 78% for safety assist systems. That's been achieved partly thanks to the body structure's intrinsic strength. It incorporates hot-formed, high-strength steel components. This steel is mainly used on the A and B pillars, the firewall and the tunnel console. In an accident, occupants are protected not only by the rigid bodywork and generous crumple zones, but also by up to 10 airbags. The other reason this car is so highly rated by Euro NCAP is thanks to its more advanced multifunction front-facing camera, which adds quite a lot to the number of drive assist safety systems this car can offer. There's now a front cross traffic assist feature that safeguards you at junctions, for instance. Plus, new nano radar sensors positioned in the right and left corners of the front apron further enhance the performance of assistance systems such as the front assist emergency braking system or crossroad assist. And nano radar sensors in the rear apron increase the range of the side assist blind spot monitor. This also includes a door exit warning to stop occupants opening their doors in the face of oncoming vehicles or cyclists. Skoda's also improved its attention and drowsiness assist setup, which monitors driver behaviour, assesses their potential level of fatigue and triggers visual and acoustic warnings if necessary. And the front assist setup also includes predictive pedestrian protection that specifically searches for the aforementioned who might be about to step out in front of you and, if necessary, can initiate braking to avoid them. All Kodiaq models also get lane assist, which alerts you if you drift out of it. And across the range, all variants get dynamic road sign display, which pictures speed signs as you pass and displays them in your eye line, which also works with a predictive speed limiter, which uses GPS data to automatically regulate your speed for greater efficiency. The usual passive safety features are fitted as well, of course. There are twin front, side and curtain airbags with all the bags linked to a pan-European emergency call service that alerts the rescue authorities if you're in an accident and they go off. As I said earlier, you can get extra airbags as part of the optional Simply Clever family package. As you'd expect, all Kodiaqs get ISOFIX child seat fastenings and anti-whiplash front head restraints with an active tyre pressure monitoring system as an option. On top of this, there are the usual electronic systems to try and ensure that neither of these features will ever be needed. That means ESC stability control and an ASR traction control system. There's ABS braking, of course. A hill hold assist feature stops you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions, and panic stops will be advertised to following motorists by automatically activating hazard warning lights. Family-sized SUVs used to be thirsty things, but things have had to improve a lot as this market segment has become more popular. The efficiency performance of this Mark II Kodiaq illustrates that very well. Though like its Volkswagen Tayron close cousin, this car suffers from the VW Group's rather baffling decision not to have developed a self-charging full hybrid engine. As we told you in our driving section, for customers of mainstream Kodiaqs seeking some sort of electrification, there's only a choice of either the brand's somewhat ineffectual 48-volt mild hybrid tech or the pricey, newly added option of the Kodiaq iV plug-in hybrid, which is why there's likely to continue to be a strong take-up for the powertrain that still probably suits this Skoda the best, the 2-litre TDI 150 PS diesel. With the provided Eco Drive mode selected, this is supposed to manage up to 53.2 mpg on the combined cycle, usefully better than the 1.5 E-Tech 150 PS model's 47.4 mpg best showing, and allowing for a range of around 650 miles. But as usual, the diesel lets itself down a little on CO2 emissions, a best of 139 grams per kilometre, compared to the mild hybrid petrol's 136 grams per kilometre best possible showing. The mild hybrid tech with the petrol model works as it usually does. The 1.5 litre engine working with a 48 volt belt starter generator and a 48 volt lithium ion battery that gets charged through regenerative braking energy delivered when coasting or off throttle, at which point no emissions are being discharged from the engine, which uses ACT Plus or active cylinder management to cut its use of 4 cylinders to just 2 at light to low throttle loads. For those who care rather less about electrification, there's the 2-litre TDI 193 PS 4x4 diesel model we're trying here, which returns up to 44.1 mpg and 168 grams per kilometre of CO2. For real frugality in a Kodiaq, you've to turn to the 1.5 TSI IV plug-in hybrid model, which, as we told you in our driving section, now has a much larger 25.7 kilowatt-hour battery pack, which is supposed to be able to offer driving range of up to 60 miles. That's 24 miles down on the equivalent Superb, but significantly better than a key segment rival, the PHEV version of the Peugeot 5008, which manages 48 miles. Another sector rival, the Kia Sorento PHEV, does even worse, returning only 35 miles on battery power, but can, unlike the IV version of this Kodiaq, be ordered with 7 seats. Skoda reckons that the Kodiaq IV model's electric mileage figure will allow many families to use the car as an EV, given German market research suggesting that 95% of journeys are less than 31 miles long and 99% are shorter than 60 miles. The brand claims that with petrol and electric power sources combined, the Kodiaq IV PHEV's range would stretch to over 620 miles. As usual with PHEVs, that EV range skews the combined cycle fuel figure well into fantasy land. Here, it's quoted at up to 691.5 mpg. In reality, you probably wouldn't do much better than would be the case with a frugally driven diesel variant. And with the PHEV, you'd have to put up with a smaller fuel tank too. But the important thing is that the HMRC believes the IV model's quoted CO2 figure up to 9 grams per kilometre, so a low benefit-in-kind taxation rating is guaranteed, 5% in this case, compared with 32 to 37% for the conventionally engined models. The PHEV battery supports DC charging at up to 50 kilowatts, and that means a 10 to 80% battery top-up will take around 25 minutes, while the 11 kilowatt onboard charger allows full home battery replenishment to take as little as 2 hours. A more typical 7.4 kilowatt garage wall box would need around 4 hours. What else? Well, bear in mind that if you spend over £40,000 on your Kodiaq, which is more than possible, then you'll have to pay the usual vehicle excise duty surcharge levied on top of the normal annual VED tax. This will apply from the second year the car's taxed until it is 6 years old. As for servicing across the range, the recommended intervals for all engines are based around a 20,000 mile or 2 year regime. The timing belt on a 1.5 litre petrol and on 2 litre TDI diesel models needs changing every 140,000 miles. You can budget ahead for maintenance costs by taking out a fixed price, prepaid servicing plan at point of purchase that covers the first 2 scheduled garage visits. The dashboard's sensor monitor offers service tyres and oil level maintenance readouts, and you can monitor ongoing frugality via since start, long-term and since refueling efficiency screens. As for residual values, well, experts predict a similar figure after 3 years and 36,000 miles to that of a Volkswagen Tayron, so up to 42%. Insurance groupings ranged from 18 to 26. And finally, while it's certainly true that other rivals better the 3-year 60,000 mile warranty that Skoda provides, you can extend your cover to 4 or 5 years by paying extra. Not that you really need to. The brand regularly tops independent consumer satisfaction surveys. According to real people, there are few more satisfying cars to own. Today, the majority of all the cars Skoda sells are SUVs, a modern era reinvention of the brand that started with this Kodiaq. Nothing too radical has been done here to change this model's buying proposition. Nothing too radical was needed, yet this is still a different kind of Kodiaq, more spacious, better connected, and a little sharper to drive. It also gains the PHEV technology its predecessor strangely never got. Even so, if you didn't already want a Kodiaq before, you probably still won't want one now. But if this Czech family crossover takes your interest, then there are now even more reasons to feel satisfied with your choice. As with the original model, we like the little touches, like the integrated ice scraper and the umbrella in the driver's door that'll be so welcome when you set out ill-equipped for a rainy day. A typical Kodiaq customer will probably be more interested in little details like these than the fact that this car still isn't much good off the beaten track. But few contenders in this sector are. For a likely owner, its other attributes will be far more important. Comfort, refinement, decent all-round value, and spacious 7-seat practicality. All of which means one thing: if you've a growing family, a sensible budget, and a desire for the style of an SUV, the Kodiaq's still a car you can't ignore.